Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything Pistons, and news writer for Sports Illustrated.
And we are recording here on a Sunday morning before the Pistons play the Cavaliers and the Lions play the Bears. I don't think anyone really cares about that one right now. I was a little surprised that football was actually still going on, just me personally. But yeah, the Pistons just coming off a difficult loss there to the Miami Heat. And there are a couple of takeaways we could try to talk about from that one. We could talk about the Asar Thompson inbounds. We could talk about them coming flat out of a break or out of a long road trip out west. But honestly, the biggest element from that game that I think we need to discuss here before jumping into some of our live and pre-submitted questions is just they kind of took a beating there injury-wise. I mean, Tobias Harris we knew was going to be out, but now he's out for 2 weeks at the minimum. And Jalen Duren rolls that ankle on that Euro step move, and it looks like he's out a minimum of a week. Blake, what are they going to do to try to overcome this here? How do you think they can rise above it?
Yeah, it's tough news, and obviously, hopefully, they both get back as soon as possible. And I mean, the clearest path when Duren goes down, you're like, okay, Isaiah Stewart is going to be in the starting lineup. He's going to get more minutes, and then we'll see Paul Reed. That was already happening against the Miami Heat with Tobias Harris out, as we've seen Isaiah Stewart start alongside Duren when Tobias is out. So, I think we're going to see Javonte Green in the starting lineup, honestly, next to Stu. But this is a team who's lost 3 of their past 4 games. You're on a tough West Coast trip, and then you come back. So giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but it definitely feels like a bad time to lose 2 of your starters and key rotation players, and really your second star alongside Cade Cunningham and Duren, like he's been for this season. So it's going to be a tough stretch where they have to dig deep. And the good news is we've seen other players toward the back of the rotation really create a spark earlier in the season, like Dennis Jenkins when Ivy was out and Sasser was out as well. So this is obviously more in the front court. So it's going to be more on Paul Reed, Ron Holland, Javonte Green, and maybe we see a mixture of like maybe Tolu Smith gets some minutes if Stewart or Paul Reed is in foul trouble or whatever it might be. But it's going to be a tough upcoming stretch, but I think it's an opportunity to really like prove that they're for real. And we've talked about the depth on this roster. So that's really a guiding light, I guess, in this time of need. But obviously when your second star goes down, it's going to be tough. And I know Duren will be reevaluated in a week, so hopefully he can get back soon, but missing him is certainly going to be a big loss in the interim.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much worried about the timing of it. Like, yeah, they got the Cavs, they got the Knicks coming up, and those are big games, of course. But, the bigger issue to me is just offensively, right? You said it. You lose your second star here for a week at a minimum in Jalen Duren, but you've also then lost who's a guy who's really become kind of the third option as well with Tobias Harris. He's been having some important big-time scoring nights too, right? So now they've lost their 2, their 3. You're still ramping Ivy up, so I don't know if he can really jump into that role yet. And then you look at the rest of the roster, and like Stewart's had some big-time scoring nights. He's up that. That's great. So hopefully he can start doing that consistently because they're going to need it. But who else, right? Who can step into that Tobias Harris role? And like, could it be Javonte Green? Maybe. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful it's Ron Holland, right? Because we saw this early on in the season when they were having those injury issues during that big winning streak that they had right at the start. And Ron Holland, we looked at it, right? And we Bryce was talking about this too, but it looked like a big time opportunity for Ron to step up, get a little bit more of a scoring load, and kind of carry the team in that way. And And he did do it. He went through a kind of a tough period there for his own game, and that, it's fine. He's kind of come out of that downward spiral. He's playing really well again, and it looks like now maybe this could be another opportunity for him where you need someone to step up and score the basketball. And I just don't know who else on this roster, if it's not going to be Jaden Ivey, who else it could really be other than Ron Holland really taking up some more volume. So I'm hopeful that that's what we end up seeing. I wouldn't hate having him start next to Stu and Asar as well there in the front court. That should be fine spacing wise. I know Holland's not the best 3-point shooter right now, but Stewart's a very good 3-point shooter. So it should be okay. And just kind of ask Ron to attack a little bit, see if he can maybe be more of that, not quite a second option, but an option, right? Not the last option on the floor, an option. Have some plays run for him and see if maybe that can help overcome that Tobias Harris loss as well. So I mean, it's going to be interesting, right, to see what they do here coming up, especially with that Knicks team and the Cavs team kind of presenting two very different problems, right? You can't go Twin Towers against the Cavs anymore, and against the Knicks, that's a really physical lineup that they have there. I know they've not been playing a ton of defense, but you still have to deal with OG, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns. It's just some tough matchups now to deal with without two of your starters.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part is, so say Ron Holland does still come off the bench and it's Javonte Green in the starting lineup next to Stewart. That means your starting lineup, really your top offensive option next to Cade Cunningham is Duncan Robinson. And what happens if it's a night where the shots just aren't falling for Duncan, like he was 1 for 5 from 3 against the Heat? That's going to put a lot on Ron Holland's shoulders off the bench. Like you said, even Marcus Sasser and Ivy in the backcourt too. So yeah, like you mentioned, it's just going to be trying to find offense when Jalen Duren, who's given you 20, 30-point games a multitude of times this year, is not available. And same for Tobias Harris, who's provided some big buckets at times as well and been one of those offensive options, because next to Cade and Duncan, if your offense is Asar, Javonte Green, and Isaiah Stewart, you can definitely see like there will be times when the offense will be slow a bit. It's about limiting that. Obviously, not every guy is going to have a great scoring night every night. So when the offense is limited, hopefully they can have that bench production as well. And yeah, big opportunity from Ron Holland. I mean, he struggled against the Heat, 1 for 7 from the field, just 2 points, and didn't make a 3, but it is another big opportunity for him, like you mentioned. And he took advantage at times earlier in the season, and hopefully with even some more time under his belt in his second season, he can grow that offensive game even more.
I don't know if the training staff would clear this or not, but I would like it if Jaden Ivey could start now. This would be a great time for him to step in, shift Robinson up, right? Shift Asar Thompson up, start Ivey at the 2. That helps a lot with that scoring load that you've mentioned, right? And honestly, it might make him a little bit more comfortable. He's looked pretty good in lineups with the starters, I think, over the past week or so of basketball, as he's started to get more minutes and get ramped back up to his usual minute load from last year. So if they do that, I know that they're going to be small. Yeah, Michael Dampierre just mentions in the chat, like that's a small lineup. That's a 3-guard lineup. You're going to be asking Cade to do a little bit more defensively with size, and that's not necessarily something that you want to be asking of your superstar, but in this case, they might have to be asking that of him, just with Duncan Robinson and needing to hide him on that end of the floor. But like that lineup would work. I know it's not quite the style of the Detroit basketball that we've seen so far this year, but it would be functioning. And I think it would function a little bit better than a Cade, Duncan, Asar, Ron, and Stu, just at least on the offensive end. And, hey, this is an opportunity for Jaden Ivey too, if you go that route, right? If the training staff says that's okay, and that's what JB decides to do, well then, hey, Jaden, like, not only do you need to step up as an offensive player, right, get back into that scoring load that you had in the past, but we need you to be better defensively too, right? We need you to keep being kind of a pit bull on ball. If Cade's going to be guarding bigger wings so that Duncan Robinson can be hidden on a worse guard, then Jaden Ivey has to take the best guard, right? Because you can't put Jaden Ivey on a tall wing. Like you really can't stick Jaden Ivey on McCall Bridges. Or you might have to here against the Knicks, but that's not ideal, right? Against most teams. So you're going to need him to step up. So it's an opportunity for Ron. It's an opportunity for Jaden Ivey. And, hopefully those guys can rise to the occasion, right? And you at least got to make it a week. Hopefully it's just an ankle sprain. The thing was Duren's apparently 270 pounds. So that's a lot of weight that just went over on that ankle. So you don't know how long that's really going to take. Presumably, though, it's not like a high-grade ankle sprain. It should be quick. It should be short-lived. So as long as he can get back pretty close to a week, a lot of these concerns I do think go away. But until then, they need to find a way to stay afloat. I'm hopeful that it's Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, and I think things are trending in the right direction with Ivy. Like if you just look at his minutes, he played a season high 29 minutes against the Clippers. And then in the loss to the Heat, he in a game, I mean, both the Clippers and the Heat game were games where Ivy struggled to get going really offensively, and he eclipsed 20 minutes in both of those games. The only other time he did that since he returned was against the Celtics, where he had 21 minutes. So I think things are trending in the right direction, and especially where there is this time of need offensively with the loss of Duren. I mean, it is weird to say, okay, we're going to look to Jaden Ivey to play a bigger role in your starting center's absence, but that could be what happens. And I think if Ivy is in, that does help solve a bit of what you're trying to do offensively. Obviously, Duren is still a big loss. But yeah, then it's just about like focusing on the defense side of the ball, because when you have Cade, Ivy, and Duncan out there, and obviously having Asar and Stu helps that problem in a big way. But you're going to be able, or you're going to need to cover some things up. Ivy will need to be solid defensively, which he has been at times, but obviously he isn't known for his defense, and you don't want to put that much on Cade Cunningham's shoulders, but just got to get by until Duren gets back and eventually Tobias gets back. And maybe this is what Jaden Ivey needed to make his way into the starting lineup, or at least find consistent minutes as long as the training staff allows it, like you said.
All right, let's jump into some of the questions we got. This first of all was from last week, so this was Swan Jeezy in the DBB comments. Asks Zach Lowe hinted at Michael Porter Jr., Sam Hauser, and Corey Kispert as those guys could be targets for the Pistons, and he asks, is Michael Porter Jr. worth the culture swap of Tobias Harris plus a first-round pick? And frankly, I would expect the price to be higher than that for whatever it's worth. You'll likely have to give up a young player, a pick, and Tobias Harris, or some combination of veteran salaries to make that all work for the Nets. But what do you think of Michael Porter Jr. as a trade candidate here for Detroit?
I mean, I like it. Michael Porter Jr. should rightfully be in all-star conversations this year, despite the Nets' poor record. And I think it's interesting because obviously he gets traded from Denver as they're trying to make some flexibility and put a deeper roster around Nikola Jokic, and seemingly Michael Porter Jr. just gets to be the guy in Brooklyn. And obviously it's a team that's not competing for much of anything, but Michael Porter Jr. has been solid for them. And I do wonder, like, I think if there are multiple first round picks on the table for Brooklyn, whether that's from Detroit or another team, I think they would certainly be inclined to move on from him just to look toward the future. But a part of me is also like, what if Brooklyn wants to keep Michael Porter Jr. if he is going to be an all-star for them and continue the way he's playing? I think I think Porter definitely fits a big need and checks a lot of boxes on what the team would be looking for in the trade market. Obviously, not everyone. There's not always the perfect target out there, but yeah, if you go for Porter, Tobias Harris is going to have to be in that trade, and you're likely going to have to give up at least one, probably multiple first round picks. Does the front office want to do that? Porter is under contract for this season and next, so you'd probably have to pay him and pay him a decent amount if he continues to play the way that he is, which we know Duren needs a new contract. We'll see what happens with Jaden Ivey, but just in theory, like thinking of how he could help the team this year, I think it is a good fit as long as you're comfortable with stomaching the price. And I mean, a lesser option of that, like you mentioned, is Kispert or Hauser. I think the price for both those players will be much less, and both of them address, like, just give you more shooting, which you're gonna need, which has been a talking point throughout the season for this group. So I think you need to go out and get someone, and I think you can bring in like a Kispert or a Hauser without giving up Harris, but also Tobias's $26 million expiring contract is a big asset that teams are going to want in trades. I think it's one of the best assets that the Pistons have, even now when you consider the fact that their first round picks aren't going to be at the top of the draft. Like if a team worse than the Pistons or that doesn't have as promising of a future is offering their first round picks, Brooklyn is going to want those instead. So I think maybe a smaller move might be more realistic, but if you can go and get Porter, a guy who's gonna be in all-star conversations, and like personally I think he should get a spot this year, I think you have to at least think about it.
So just to make sure we're all level setting here, right? Like Michael Porter Jr. has been incredible this season for the Nets. He's averaging 25.8 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.3 assists. He's shooting the ball 18 and a half times per game at about 50%, and he's taking about 9 3-pointers per game, shooting over 40. He's at 41%. So offensively, yeah, like Michael Porter Jr. is a home run, right? I do have a lot of concerns defensively. He's got, he's not had too many recent injury scares, but he did come into the league with that back issue. And I do, all of the lower body things that he had earlier on in his career have kind of sapped his lateral athleticism. He's still not the most quick guy. He makes up for it being, big, 6'9", good sized. He's 27. So it's not like this is an older player as well. I don't think that you need to have too many overarching injury concerns with him, even though he does have that history. At least I don't personally have that for Michael Porter Jr. It's more just been small stuff over the past few years. However, defensively, I think is totally fair. Now, is he a good enough scorer offensively where you say that that's fine? Maybe. I mean, he's 26 points per game is pretty dang good. So I think it's in that conversation. But look, I think what you said there at the end is probably the most important thing to note here. We've not gotten any indication that the Pistons are interested in anything other than a small move to augment the core that they have and see what these guys can do. And I don't necessarily think that they're wrong for having that position right now. If you just look at what Langdon's taken over, right? When he shows up on day one, this is a team that lost 28 straight games. He basically ran the same thing back with just a couple of shooters, and they made the playoffs. And then he ran it back again with, just like a couple of shooters, and Karis LeVert is another ball handler. And now they're first place in the Eastern Conference. Like at every level, Trajan Langdon has been surprised, even admittedly so after last season. He said he was surprised by what this group has done. So if you just take that perspective that he's been surprised at every turn. Why would you jump in and rock the boat right now? They're sitting first in the Eastern Conference. They don't necessarily need a second star. Clearly, they're still sitting at first in the conference. I know they lost 3 of their last 4, but you at this point that's more of an outlier than it is the norm so far this season. So hopefully they get that turned around. I'm just saying, like, if you look at this team, it's totally understandable when Langdon or when you hear the news reports, right? The rumors that, well, the Pistons don't want to make a big move. They'll maybe do something smaller, right? Bring in someone like a Sam Hauser, right? So Dampier brings that up. Michael Dampier brings that up. I like that idea. He's a little bit cheaper, great shooter. Actually, he's not a terrible defender either. I really do like Sam Hauser quite a bit. He'd be a perfect fit in Detroit. I think he's probably more expensive than people would expect. I do think it'll take a little bit more than just throwaway pieces to go and get a Sam Hauser, but I'd be interested in a player like that. I think that's more of the style of move that you're going to see because that's what we've heard, right? That the Pistons are interested in doing. And it's just hard to blame Langdon for taking that approach. I certainly think that it's accurate. I think it's correct. Let's see. We're going to do New Year's resolutions here because we got a question about that. And I'll just give a preview. That's going to be mine for Jalen Duren, right? You want to look at this core. Can he be the second star? Well, if you trade for Michael Porter Jr., you're not going to find out. So I think that they're right. I'd take a pass. CJ McCollum's another name. I like the idea of it. I don't love the contract as much. But yeah, I think something smaller, like you said there at the end. That's probably what we're going to see. And honestly, I'm right there with the Pistons brain trust in thinking that way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that too. I mean, I just think in the long term, the Pistons are obviously set up for where they could take a swing on a guy like Porter or whatever they want. I think the issue is if you take that swing now, it might be your only swing for the next few years. And is it the right swing? Because that's a big move. And with just not as much outside of Cade Cunningham, like locked into this roster right now, we have an idea on who's going to be a part of it, but you don't have like Duren, Asar, Ivy locked down long core. So I'll say that their futures are seemingly up in there, and add Ron Holland to that mix too. I see it more of going out to get a guy who like ideally can defend a little bit and shoot the ball. I don't know if this guy is going to be available, but maybe Dallas is willing to give up Max Christie as they're trying to rebuild around Cooper Flagg. I mean, Christie's a young guy that they might try to hold on, but if they're trying to get off Anthony Davis and the Pistons can help make that money work and bring Christie back in exchange for that, I think that would be a good name to watch as a guy who can defend a bit, can shoot. I think he's less of a sure thing than some of the players that we've already talked about as trade targets. But I think that as other teams are trying to make some moves here, and I know the Kings will try to move off their big contracts. Atlanta's seemingly trying to trade Trey, and we'll see what happens there. I think the Pistons could get in the mix in a multi-team deal and hopefully add an impactful player to their rotation, because I think the main thing is just adding players who can help you down the stretch of this regular season and into the postseason. We obviously saw Langdon do that last year, getting Dennis Schroeder for next to nothing. I would be thrilled with a similar move, maybe not a player that same archetype, but a wing who can defend. Maybe that guy's available, maybe he's not, but at least someone who can add some shooting, like Hauser or Kispert, like you mentioned. And there's probably some other names, because Hauser and Kispert are both locked down for multiple years after this season, and they both make, I think Kispert's around 13 million a year, Hauser's around 10. So not a crazy contract by any means, but that's a chunk of your future flexibility that you're giving up as well. So if you can bring that in for a cheap price, I think it's worth it. But that's also a factor you have to consider bringing in players like that too.
All right, last trade question here before we get into those New Year's resolutions. So we'll just hit this real quick. But who do you think is most likely to be traded here at the deadline? This is from Race to the Bag in the DBB comments.
Man, this is such a tough question because if you look at just the Pistons cap sheet for this year, the answer to me is Tobias, just because of his expiring contract. But at the same time, like we've already talked about, we know how big of a piece he is for this locker room. He's a starting player, has been able to keep the offense at bay at times. And also he's hurt, which throws a monkey wrench into things. But I could also see the Pistons not wanting to trade him. So my actual answer is probably Karis LeVert, just because we've seen him struggle. But at the same time, will even a rebuilding team want to take on Karis LeVert's $14 million for this season and next? That's a big, like, I wonder if the Pistons would have to attach a pick to get an upgrade over Karis. But right now, I think he'd be my answer. And just like contract wise, you can go down the list. Like, I don't think Duncan Robinson is going to be traded, but his contract is very tradable. So I think you can really remove him, and Ivy's the other big name, but something tells me that this front office doesn't want to give up on him just yet, unless it is in a move where you are getting such a big upgrade that you're okay parting with Jaden Ivey. So that's a tough one. A very non-committal answer, I know. So if I have to pick one, I think it would be Karis LeVert for me, but I think there are a number of trade candidates on the roster.
I would echo 100%. If you guys are watching live, I was smirking over here because you started going on Tobias Harris. I was like, ooh, okay, I'll have a different answer. And then you switched.
Sorry.
Did the little bait and switch on us here to go to Karis LeVert. That was going to be my answer too. So let's just jump right into those New Year's resolutions. This is from our guy, Epic Wayne. And honestly, we do this every year for the Pistons Pulse too. So this will be kind of fun. It says low-hanging fruit, but what are your New Year's resolutions for each of the players in the rotation, all 13 of them, JB Bickerstaff, Trajan Langdon, and the team as a whole? Again, that's Epic Wayne. So let's just start here with Javonte Green. We're going to try to run through these kind of quickly, kind of not, but Javonte Green, let's start with him. New Year's resolution for him: in 34 games this year, 6.7 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 0.9 assists. What would be your New Year's resolution?
I'm going to go fairly reasonable here. I'd like to see him get up to 35% as a three-point shooter, or a little higher, like right around league average. He's close to that right now. He's shooting 33.7% from three on 2.7 attempts per game. But in Tobias's absence, I think there will be paths to more volume for him. So I think just like we've already seen him have some explosive plays near the rim and provide that energy and be a good defender. So I think and I hope I don't use this same answer for like a bunch of other players on the roster, because I think you can say the same thing for a lot. But for Javonte, I think being a little bit better of a three-point shooter will go a long way for him and help the team solve a lot of their needs in the process.
Honestly, for me, it just keep it up. You know, I know that that's not an exciting New Year's resolution, but there's really not anything that I would change about what we've seen from Javonte Green. He's shooting pretty much near his career marks, right, with that 33%. Like that's good, right? That's solid for a player like Javonte Green. So stay in that low minutes role. I don't know. I don't want to see necessarily 30 minutes a night out of Javonte Green. I don't want to see more jump shots out of Javonte Green. I just love the energy that he brings, and honestly kind of the subtle leadership too that he brings as another veteran presence for this still very young team. I mean, you see him bring the guys into a huddle late in games when he's getting those fourth quarter minutes. Like, Javonte Green's been very important for this team in low minutes. And I just want him to be consistent in that, stay right along with it. So yeah, I know it's not sexy, but keep doing what you're doing, Javante. Be consistent with that. Do it for 82 games. That's what I want to see out of him. Or maybe I could say that, right? Because he's played every single game so far. So make it to all 82. That'd be a good mark for him. What about our guy Dennis Jenkins? Still on a 2-way contract, by the way, Mr. Dennis Jenkins. In 27 games played, he's at 7 points, 1.7 rebounds, 2.8 assists. He's shooting 42% from the floor, 35% from three, and 77% from the line.
You know what? For him, I'll say I'll keep it fairly simple too. Like get some real minutes and take advantage of him. We've seen him off the bench as of late if the team needs just something different to add in. But a lot of times we've seen him at the end of games where it's just some garbage time. So I think the start of the season, he clearly proved he can be an NBA player and an impactful one. I think it's definitely hard to keep that going just longevity wise, especially as you have Jaden Ivey return and just less wiggle room in the rotation. But I think Dennis deserves at least some like real role in the rotation, especially as you have some injuries and maybe as like Karis LeVert continues to struggle, maybe you give some of his minutes to Dennis Jenkins here and there, but it has to be about converting and just making an impact in the minutes that you have, because it's not going to be a lot for Dennis and he still has a lot to prove himself. So just taking advantage of the opportunities that he has for me.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I'll just put it in a slightly different way because I want him to prove that he doesn't need big minutes to be impactful, right? His best games this season have been in big chunks, right? When he's playing as a starter, a key rotation guy off the bench. I believe if you look at it, almost all of his bigger scoring outputs are going to be in 20 plus a night. And frankly, when you are the backup to Cade Cunningham, a point guard who plays 36 minutes or more a game, that's just not an attainable minute number for you. So can he be impactful in 10 minutes, right? Can he be impactful in 12 minutes? He's done that in stretches this season, but it's not been consistent. So that's what I want to see from him, because if he's going to stake that claim as the Pistons' long-term backup point guard, and I think that he has to prove that he can be that guy, be that impactful energy player in just short 4 to 5 minute bursts. He doesn't need the warm up. He doesn't need the feel of the game. He can come off the bench and he can be impactful. And that's a skill, right? That is hard to do. And you've seen Marcus Sasser do it, and that's impressive, right? That's why it's so shocking when he comes out and has that game in the Miami Heat. I mean, he came off the bench in the fourth quarter cold and started nailing threes. That is tough to do. So if now Dennis can start to do that as well consistently, because he has done it before. So that's my New Year's resolution for him. I want to see him be consistently impactful in short bursts. And if he could do that, then that contract that he's going to sign, because there's no way they don't take him off this 2-way deal. I mean, he's played, I think, 27 of the 34 games. He will get a regular NBA contract. But if he can prove that by the deadline even, well, then I bet that contract's multi-year, and I would hope that it is, right? So that's my resolution for him. Still dealing with the end of the bench here. Paul Reed, our guy B-Ball Paul. In 26 games, he's averaging 5.5 points, 3.8 rebounds, 0.9 assists. He's shooting 63% from the floor, 43% from three. Paul Reed, let me grab his stocks real quick because they're still pretty good. Yeah, he's up at 1.4 stocks per game. But again, he's only averaging, let's see, what's his minutes number? Yeah, 10 minutes a game. So yeah. Paul Reed's impactful. What's your resolution for Paul Reed?
We're gonna see more Paul Reed with at least while Duren's out, and maybe it's not for a long time. I don't love this resolution for him because it's why we all love B-Ball Paul, but in this increased role, I kind of hope that he prioritizes shots around the rim more, and if he's not like wide open in the mid range, I mean, he makes those shots a lot. So it's sort of, it's just so tough when they don't fall, and they do fall a lot. So I want to give him credit for that. But Paul Reed, all the credit to him. He's going to take advantage of opportunities when they present himself. But I would like to see him take less, just not high profile shots. I just get some more action near the rim. And like you said, he's been good from the field. He's shooting 63% on 3.7 field goal attempts per game. So he is doing this a bit, but maybe just get like one extra shot from the game in games near the rim, and give up on a mid-range open look he has, and maybe that's making the right pass when he does see that as well. So leave that in your game a little bit, but maybe just a little bit less.
Yeah, for me, you know, I guess just like get a master's degree in his role, because he's already pretty much an expert. He knows we've talked about this before. This is why I love Paul Reed so much. He is very good at knowing when the team needs Paul Reed and when the team needs B-ball Paul. And I love that about him so much. I love that if you get into a blowout game, he's putting up the shots. He's doing all, behind the back isolation dribble. He's doing what he wants in those games. But then when you need him, when you need that energy big, you need the stocks, you need the trap, right, that he could do off the pick and roll so well. You need his just hustle around the rim. He gives you that. But you're right. Every now and again, that little contested mid-range shot shows up. So just he's already got maybe you could put it this way. He's already got the master's degree in knowing his role, knowing when to bring out which style of play that he has. Let's just elevate that to a PhD. Let's just make it 100%. He never makes the mistake. He always knows, all right, this is a Paul Reed moment, and okay, now this is a B-ball Paul moment. Because if we could just get rid of that one little sliver of crossover, I'm with you. I think that the team would be better off. So that's another one that's not super exciting. But how could you not love Paul Reed? It's tough to think of something that I want him to do differently. He's been so fun, so fun. We got our guy Camille here in the live chat for the first time in a while. Welcome back, man. He says, "Hi guys, long time no see. Hope you're both doing well. We are hoping the same for you. Hope you had a happy New Year." We'll jump over to Marcus Sasser here, and I'm going to look up the stats real quick because I'm a bad host and I fell behind. Marcus Sasser, 6 games only, so this is kind of iffy, but 7.3 points, 1.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists. He is on absolute fire though, from the floor and 3. So even in these 6 games, 58% from the floor, 60% from 3. Obviously that's not sustainable. So take that for what you will. But what would be your New Year's resolution for our guy Marcus Sasser?
So I think continuing his current efficiency is next to impossible. Like, he's shooting 60% from 3 only in 6 games and on 2.5 attempts. But I think him and Dennis Jenkins are going to be taking minutes from each other. So I can say the same thing about Dennis Jenkins. Take advantage of your minutes when they are presented to you. Sasser has certainly done that so far. I think even more long-term though, because when Dennis Jenkins had the breakout earlier in the year and Sasser was hurt, it was like, does this team really need Marcus Sasser? Could he be a trade candidate? I think since he's come back, he's proven that he can certainly be impactful, and he can even provide that shooting that this team needs. So I'm going to go a little bit more long-term for him, looking in the bigger picture. Talk to Gary Trent Jr., watch his film, because I think that is the absolute ceiling of what Marcus Sasser could be in this league. Like, we know he can play point guard, but he's not really a point guard. He's a great shooter. Yes, Gary Trent has started at times in his career, but he's come off the bench a lot and just been that spark plug who can go off for 5 threes a game. So I think just in short, for Marcus Sasser, it's think about what your role can be in the long term and really play that way right now, which to me is a microwave scorer off the bench. So look at some of the guys around the league who are doing that and have been doing that for years to come, and watch what they're doing, and really just like keep up what you're doing too, because it's a small sample size, but he's been awesome right now. So I think a little bit of what you said for Javonte Green, I'm going to say for Marcus Sasser here.
That's fair. Before I give mine, I want to shout out here to our guy Camille. Says that his own country's preventing him from being shared as the international fan here for the Pistons official account, which they've been doing for a bunch of guys. You know, Jack, Tom, many more. So hopefully that gets all sorted out because he's absolutely deserving. So that's unfortunate, but so sorry to hear that. But regardless, Marcus Sasser. I think the reason Marcus Sasser has been getting more minutes here, right? I know, JB pulling the right strings, right? Gets the team a little bit of a boost, and he's been incredible offensively. But I think the reason he's actually stayed in the rotation is, to my eye, he's looked like the defender I thought he was coming out of Houston. And even if you look at it, right, he's never averaged fewer minutes per game. So I know that, again, this is just 6 games, so grain of salt. However, the eye test backs this up. So in 11 minutes, he's averaging 0.7 steals. Well, his rookie year and his second year, where he played 19 minutes and 14 minutes respectively, so more minutes, it was less. It was 0.6 steals. I don't know if that's going to exactly stay. He's not, a pocket picker type of guy. However, his effort on that end of the floor has been so much better, I think, at least to my eye. He's been more impactful. He's pressuring other guards. He's kind of hanging his hat on the defensive end again, which, he wasn't earlier on in his career. We've talked about that before too. It's like one of the biggest surprises his rookie year. We thought we were getting kind of a 3-and-D guard, and that's not what he was. So for me, New Year's resolution for Marcus Sasser, you want to stay in the rotation, because I do think offensively he's deserving, right? If he can be a good defender, like really a plus defender, well, you feel real good about maybe moving Karis LeVert and elevating Marcus Sasser on that deal that he's on. You feel really good about that. So that's what he's got to do. If he can do that, I think he's going to be getting consistent minutes. And I think maybe you start talking about a Marcus Sasser contract extension too, which would be pretty great. He's always been a good shooter. He's always been a pretty good scorer. You add a true hound defensively, that could be some fun backup guard minutes with like maybe him and Dennis or him and Jay Ivey. So that's it for me. Defense, keep it up. Be consistent on that end. Be impactful as a defender. And we'll, I think he'll profit from it. Let's go to Ron Holland, who, real quick, is averaging 8.2 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. However, the slash lines aren't all that great. So 41% from the floor, 24% from three, and 79% from the line, which is actually pretty good. What's your New Year's resolution here for Ron Holland?
I think it has to be the 3-point shooting as well here. And like we've talked about, he is probably in line for more opportunity with Tobias missing at least multiple weeks in this brief stretch without Duren. But yeah, 24.5% from three on 2.6 attempts per game. The positive for me is the shot has looked better this year, and he hasn't been afraid to take it. But it just, if he's going to be an eventual core piece of this team, potentially a starter, he needs to connect on threes at a higher clip. And I don't know if he can get to like 30-35% this year. It might be asking a lot, but I mean, he should definitely be at least near that 30% mark so far. And I don't know what needs to happen. If it's more reps, it seems like he has been taking the right shot. So yeah, just hone in on the 3-point shot more for Ron Holland, on top of like everything else that he's been excelling at. And hopefully we'll see him grow into a bigger role over time if that happens.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily the three. It could be, right? It could be the 3-point shot. And long term, obviously, that's what he needs, right? He needs to get a jumper if he's going to play big minutes with the Pistons. So that's kind of just you bake that into the cake. There's no way around that. But in the short term, I want him to hang his hat on something in the half court. It could be his drive. He's got a really good first step. And I think he's leveraged that a little bit more recently, which is good. He's shooting the ball more, right, in these games. So great if that's how he's going to get them. Perfect. Maybe it could be as a cutter, right? It could be as just a hustle offensive rebounder. I don't know exactly what it is because he really is at this point a ball of clay. But he's got to find something that he does at an above average level offensively and just lean into it. So I think it's probably that dribble drive, just that rip and go. But if he can start doing that every game, every opportunity that he gets, and try to finish it, because he is a pretty good finisher when he gets close to the rim, or at least he is to the eye test, right? He gets himself good shots. I want to see more of that. So I think that's what it would be for me. Just if he could be more impactful in the half court, then that unlocks more minutes for him. He's a very good transition player. He's a very good defender. If he can also be pretty good offensively in the half court, maybe get up closer to, 10 points per game, right? That we saw early on in the season when he was hot, make that consistent. That's a really good sign for him long-term. So I think that's what I would want to see out of him. Yeah. Derek Braun says, I don't think I've ever seen Ron Holland take a mid-range jumper. You know what? Not a good one, right? I've seen a couple of panic ones, right? And late in the clock. So maybe that's one, right? Maybe he can get that pull up mid-range going. Just something. He's so quick. He's so impactful in other ways. If he could be somewhat impactful in the half court offensively, I think that would be huge for him. This next one's going to be interesting. Asar Thompson. All right. Asar Thompson is averaging 11.6 points, 5.7 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 51% from the floor, shockingly 29% from three on no attempts, but still not as bad of a number as you thought. But 55% for the free throw line. What's your New Year's resolution for Asar Thompson?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can go with this one. I think I'll go a different way about it. Argue foul calls a little bit less. I think we've seen it's nice to see some more fire out of Asar this year, and I think he has a point in a lot of the technicals and everything that he received. But we have seen him be removed from games at times, and sometimes resulting in technicals, which makes things even tougher and could lead to a suspension down the road. I don't think it'll get to that level, but keep showing that fire, but maybe just don't get as heated at the refs, which let JB take care of that, which I think he has a lot. I just don't want to see Asar take himself out of games, especially when you don't have Duren and Tobias, and it makes the rotation a little bit harder. So keep up that fire. Just make sure it doesn't cross a line.
I like that one. I do. One other thing with Asar Thompson that's notable. If you go to his per 100 possessions, his rebounds are down. His steals are down. I think he's, for as good of a defender as he is, because we have to be careful when we're critiquing Asar Thompson on the defensive end of the floor, because he's not only the best on the team, even with a guy like Isaiah Stewart, he also is probably all NBA first team defense. I mean, he's one of the best in the league. That being said, he's been better in the past, right? I think he was a better defender last year. He was a more disruptive defender last year. I would like to see some of that come back. I would like him to rebound the basketball more. Last year, he was at 11 rebounds per 100 possessions. This year, it's just 10.3. He's got to get that up. So honestly, YouTube user brings up the assist to turnover ratio. If he's going to handle the ball more, I would agree with that. I just kind of think I want him to handle the ball less. I want to reduce Asar Thompson's offensive load here. it's not working. His effective field goal percentage is even less than it was last year. His 2-point field goal percentage is less than it was last year. His field goal percentage is less than it was last year. I feel like he might just be being asked to do a bit too much on the offensive side of the floor when he's so good in transition and he's so good as just a defender. And you know what? He's good enough on that end of the floor, for the same reasons where earlier we were talking about Jalen Duren. We said, you know what? Jalen Duren's reached a level offensively where it's just okay that he's not an amazing defender. Asar Thompson's at the level defensively where, to me, it's just okay that he's not a great offensive basketball player, and you have to work around that on that end of the floor. So my New Year's resolution for Asar, just focus on the defense. Focus on what makes you exceptional, because he is exceptional as a defender and as an athlete. So be disruptive, be an absolute dog defensively, and just attack in transition. Don't worry about the half-court stuff. Don't handle the ball too much unless you're pressuring Cade and he needs an extra hand, right? All that extra stuff, it doesn't matter to me. Just be a cutter and nothing more. Be a one-more passer, nothing more. And just focus on what makes you amazing. That's what I want to see out of Asar Thompson here as we kind of move through this year. So what's interesting to me as I look up Jaden Ivey's stats with these New Year's resolutions is it's so tempting to start thinking just like the rest of the season, right? But we got to project it into the start of next season too. We've got a whole calendar year. So with Asar, it's kind of fun, right? Because you're thinking, okay, this year, right? I'm thinking I wanted him to scale it back offensively, but yeah, I'm saying even after an off season, just keep with it. I think that if this is what he is offensively, that's okay to me, is I guess what I'm saying, which I don't know, maybe not a lot of people would agree with it, but I'm there. Anyway, let's move on to Jaden Ivey here. Jaden Ivey in 19 games, and obviously he's been ramping up here. 8.1 points, 2.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists. The numbers pretty good from the floor and from three. 46% from the floor, 39 from three, and 80% from the free throw line. Of course, the big number here is that 16.1 minutes per game. Like you said, it's been climbing up here. He's stacked 20-minute games back to back now. Good sign, I think. So what do we want to see out of Jaden Ivey in the calendar year 2026?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of doing much of the same with more minutes. But even looking out further, I think as Jaden Ivey is getting more minutes and ramping up from his return from missing so much basketball, just prove that you should be a key piece of this franchise moving forward. I think he still has some work to do to prove that. And obviously he hasn't had much of the opportunity to do so, which I think is coming up for him. But the team will potentially have to make a decision on him at the trade deadline if another team is asking for him, if there's a deal that the Pistons would want to make. And there's even more decisions if he's still on the team in the off season and moving ahead. So it's simple, and there's a lot of stuff that's going into it, but just prove that you are a key piece of this roster, like what Jalen Duren has done already this season, which is hard, and you need opportunities to do so. But I think for Ivy, keep doing what you're doing to take more minutes away from Karis LeVert and make them keep you on the floor. And then in turn, that should make the franchise more certain about what you can be for this team moving forward.
I'm similar. I'll put it this way though. I'll shoot a little higher. Jaden Ivey New Year's resolution: put yourself in the 6th man of the year conversation. I don't know which year that's going to come in, right? It's probably next season, not so much this season, as he continues to ramp himself back up. And at this rate, it does seem likely that at least with Jaden Ivey, you're kind of moving forward towards a qualifying offer season, right? Just playing on that QO, not having a new contract, not being able to get signed by someone else. So I assume he's going to be back next year. put yourself in that 6 man of the year conversation. Like, get yourself right this year. Get everything, hunky dory, 100%, right, all the way back. And then next year, hit that ground running, be an impactful bench player, and be kind of that microwave for the Pistons. And maybe another team's going to want to take a shot on that. Maybe the Pistons think that that's valuable enough to keep around, right? And that's a vital rotation piece. I don't know how that's going to go, but I think for him, that's his best path. So if I'm going to say a New Year's resolution for Jaden Ivey, be like, like Malik Monk did it, right? Malik Monk did it with the Kings. High minutes off the bench and just score. Be a dude offensively off the bench. That's what I want to see out of Jaden Ivey. Let's talk about Sheen. Let's talk about Duncan Robinson. Those were so funny. Oh my gosh, those posters in LA. But Duncan Robinson, bigger role than I think any of us really expected. 11.6 points per game, 2.8 rebounds, 2 assists. But the big numbers, 42% from the floor, 38% from three. Pretty good, right? 78% for the free throw line, but he doesn't get there all of that often. So what do you want to see out of Duncan Robinson? What's his New Year's resolution?
So I think my main resolution for him is be less exploitable on defense, but that's a tall ask because we've seen it throughout his career, and the teams are going to continue to target him. So I'm not sure how realistic that was. So just throwing something else out there, maybe get to the top 10 of the NBA in 3-point makes on the season. He's in total made 88 threes this year, which puts him tied for 22nd in the NBA, and the top 10 is they've all made more than 100 threes so far. So this team had Malik Beasley last year, who was right up there at the top of the NBA in 3-point efficiency, volume, and all that. So maybe I think my goal for him is finish the year, and this is obviously health dependent, but somewhere at least 200 threes. He's at 88 right now through 32 games. So get up to that 200 threes mark by the end of the season, and hopefully that puts him in top 10 and hopefully a little bit more as well.
I like it. For the sake of not saying the same exact thing, take some charges. He started to try. I give him credit for that. He's given it a go, but let's make it successful. Be a little bit more steal a little bit from Tim Hardaway Jr. Of last season. Go take some charges, because look, he's not going to be a good defender. So if he could at least take a charge, that puts the other player in foul trouble, gets the Pistons the ball back. That is impactful defense. So if he could do that consistently over the next calendar year, I think that justifies the, or at least not necessarily that it justifies, but it allows this team to continue to start him, which they need to do for his floor spacing. So continue to allow that to happen. Take some charges. How about Karis LeVert? 26 games, 8.4 points, 1.8 rebounds, 2.8 assists. And Karis has been getting a bad rap, man, but he's 44% from the floor, 38% from three, and 67% from the free throw line. Something you want better, want to improve on there. But Karis has been pretty good actually here in these 26 games. So what's your New Year's resolution for him?
I think it's be more confident. I think he's still in a bit of an adjustment period in this new situation for him, and he's found himself in plenty of new situations throughout his career. So I do think he can adjust even further, but I think just the runway for him has been a little bit longer than expected. And yeah, there's been discourse because he has been like a rough watch offensively at times, but he's also been very good at other times throughout the season. So I think being more consistent, being more confident in this role, and I mean, as long as he's still on this roster a month from now, I think they're going to need that, and they're going to need offense to come from a bunch of different places, and you need to get some of that out of Karis LeVert. So just be more confident when the team is looking looking to you for shots.
This isn't necessarily fair to him because it's not like he's got much control over this, but it's not even fair for me to say I want Karras to be more consistent. He's been a bit of a roller coaster offensively his entire career. And what I'm actually going to go with, it's not fair either, but health, right? Keep making sure your body's right. Don't miss many games, right? Be consistently available and on the court because this team needs him. I know the fans online at least aren't all that excited about him. I get that, right? But he's a good shooter. He's a spark plug scorer when he gets hot, and it can happen quickly, right? He's been actually a pretty good defender for at least his role coming off the bench. I like Caris LeVert for this team, right? Michael Dampier says they need his length in the playoffs. Absolutely, they do. So stay healthy, stay available for the team this year, and they've got him under contract next year too. So as long as he's still around, yes, right. Just keep being available. The best availability or the best ability is availability. I think that's the winning formula here for Caris LeVert. And he just missed the Heat game, right? So like it's not something that he's
I think he's out against Cleveland today as well.
He is? Okay, well there you go. So fix that. Not that he really can. It's bad luck, but I don't know. Maybe there's some voodoo training staff magic that can be done here to keep him healthy. But that'd be my New Year's resolution. How about Tobias Harris? We got to kind of move through some of these a little bit more quickly. So Tobias, 23 games, he's averaging 13.4 points, 4.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists on 45% from the floor, 33% from three, 85% from the stripe.
You know what? He's known as almost like the dad of this team, and he's going to miss some time, but help your younger teammates from the free throw line. He's been such a good free throw shooter throughout his career. He's a 83.5% career free throw shooter. A few seasons ago with Philly, he shot over 89% from three. He had a year over 90% in his first stint with Detroit. So help Ron Holland, Asar, Cade for that matter, like everyone from the free throw stripe. I'm sure he already is in practice, and it just takes some time, but share some of that wealth with them. I don't know how it happens, but I hope it does.
I love it. I'm gonna blend two together here, all right? Because our next one's gonna be Isaiah Stewart, and these are the same for me. So Tobias Harris, New Year's resolution, successfully transition into being a bench player for the Pistons. I love the leadership that he brings. I do not want to trade Tobias Harris. Honestly, I want to keep him. I want to have him be that Al Horford type veteran for this team, right? That is an impactful starter for a couple of years and then moves over to the bench and continues to be a great bench player in just less minutes to help maintain his health and help keep things a little bit more accessible, right, endurance wise for him as he's continuing to advance up in age. That's what I want from Tobias Harris. And you know what, for Isaiah Stewart, who is averaging 10 points, 5.7 rebounds, 1.1 assists, but 52% from the floor, 37% from three, 73% from the line. The big number is the blocks, 2 blocks per game in only 22.9 minutes per game. I want Isaiah Stewart starting at that 4 position. Sorry, YouTube user. He says, please don't say it. I do. I want him to be starting at the 4 and to be the backup 5. I want Isaiah Stewart to be averaging over 30 minutes a night in that kind of combo big role. I love the shooting that he brings, but really it's the defense. So I want Isaiah Stewart to transition into being that starting power forward, but also remain the backup center, right? I don't want that to change, but he's so good defensively. I just think that they need to get him out there. So that's my New Year's resolution for him. Have him become a starter for this team moving into the rest of this season and then into next. Solidify that and improve that it doesn't change his game. It hasn't so far, right? In the minutes he's gotten as the 4, it hasn't changed his game too far. But if he can just kind of, I guess, continue to prove it, I guess would be the way to put it, right? Continue to not let it change who you are. Still be that big, still play around the rim, still block a bunch of shots, get a bunch of rebounds, also shoot some threes, make some nice one more passes, play the high-low game with Duren. Like, I think he really could be that long-term solution there, which YouTube user mentions, like they need a long-term solution at the four. I do think it could be Isaiah Stewart. And I think that because Jalen Duren can do much more offensively. So that's mine for Isaiah Stewart. Be the starting power forward and the backup center. Play 30 minutes a night. Get yourself into that defensive player of the year conversation, deservedly so. That's where I'm at with him.
For me, I mean, a bunch of different. Like I was gonna say, make all defense, but that's out of his hands to a degree. We've seen him do as much as he can at this point. So I think my main resolution for him is going to be to take more threes. He's already taken more than he did the entire season last year. 2 seasons ago, he had 175 attempts. The year before that, he was over 200. He's on pace to be near those numbers, but I think it would be helpful if he took even more shots from three, especially as this team needs some more shooting, and don't want him to go crazy by any means. But I think there is room to up his volume a little bit. So, and he's been able to make them. So I'm happy with him taking those shots. Another quick one would be try to lead the NBA in blocks. It's going to be hard. Jay Huff for Indiana has 79. Stewart's second with 63. Wemby is right there behind Stu with like the time he missed and everything. And Wemby will miss some more time as well. I think Stewart could get to that conversation. It'll be hard, but at least get near it. Make it interesting.
All right, Jalen Duren, so far this season, 17.9 points per game, 10.6 rebounds, 1.7 assists on 63% from the floor, 72% from the free throw line. My resolution for Jalen Duren is simple, all right? He's proving that he can be that second option. I need him to do it every night, right? If Cade is having an off stretch, Jalen Duren needs to know to step up, because that's been a frustration recently. Duren is fully capable of being this great scorer for this team. We've seen it. He does it. It's just, it seems like when Cade starts slowing down, then when you need Duren to step up, he hasn't yet. And you know what? I think it's time that he starts doing it. Yes, he's only 22 years old, so he's definitely going to learn, but have that feel for the game. Just have that feel for the moment when your team needs you to go get a bucket. Be the guy to step up and go get one. That's what I want to see out of JD. I mean, it'd be easier to say, like, get over 20 points per game. Sure, right? Get the free throw percentage up closer to 80. Sure, all of that's going to be helpful. But I think that's the next step for him, because we've seen him adjust to the defense that he's been seeing pretty well. I think he's starting to puzzle that out, figure that out. So now just have that feel for the moment. When does this team need JD to go get a bucket? Right now, he hasn't kind of grasped that yet. So that's what I want to see out of him this next year.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this goes into the field piece of that a little bit, but cut down on your turnovers. It's been a long discussion point with him. He's second in the team with turnovers with 2.3 per game. Cade's first with 4. Obviously Jalen Duren's going to have some turnovers with how big a part he is in this offense, but those games where you have like 4 or 5 turnovers out of your starting center is really a killer. And I think you will see some more if he is becoming even a bigger part of this offense and taking more advantage of it. So it's going to be tough, but I think it does go into what you were talking about with feel and all that, and making the right play, going up for a shot when you have the right opportunity. And we know he's a good passer for his position. So just making the right play there. I think he's been a little bit better in that sense just in general this year, but I think there is an extra step he can get to. And if he hopefully, like, I guess my resolution would be have some sort of guard or more of like a lead ball handler take over that unwanted position as the second most turnovers on the team.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. A couple things before we wrap up, because we are running out of time. So we're going to kick Cade Cunningham, JB Bickerstaff, Trajan Langdon, and then the team as a whole to the very beginning of our next episode.
The heavy hitters.
So we're going to kind of carry that around. Yeah, the heavy hitters. You know, we've gone an entire episode here without really talking about Cade Cunningham, and that just continues to be a terrible trend. Oh my Lord, we can't do that. But yet there's so much.
He has no problem. No, we can nitpick.
Yeah, I know. I know, but I guess that's a good thing with the team being as good as they are. There's so much to talk about, you know, and we could let a guy like Cade slip through the cracks here on a New Year's resolution show. So we're gonna open up the show with that next week. All right. But YouTube user brings up a point. Michael Dampier echoed it as well. Says that Stu at the 4 really should just be a low minutes per game thing because he's pretty bad offensively as a 4. And look, I agree with both of you guys. Isaiah Stewart offensively is not a 4. He's a catch and shoot stretch big, right? He's a catch and shoot stretch 5. And the reason that these minutes have worked this year with him at the 4, in my opinion, is because Jalen Duren offensively plays much more like a 4, kind of a throwback 4 where he's not out at the 3-point line. He's kind of at the elbow or below, but he's starting to hit that mid-range shot. He's being able to ISO and take guys off the dribble from mid-range and get to the rim. He's able to make a shot for himself. He's playing offensively like a 4 with the ball in his hands, and that allows Isaiah Stewart to just space and it not be an issue that like he can't dribble the basketball. So the whole reason that this all works is because Jalen Duren improved so much with the ball in his hands. So I'll just leave that there. But I thought that this would be a good one to end the show on. Blake, Derek Brown earlier asked us if we would be comfortable paying Jalen Duren $35 or more million in a season. He says that he is not. And I'll answer it quickly. I am. I think 40 is my hard cap. I wouldn't go above that. But if you're paying JD in that 35 to 40 range as the cap continues to go up, it's actually advantageous in a weird kind of twisted way. So I'll give you the explanation, then I'll let you respond and we'll wrap it up. But if Jalen Duren is that second star, right? If he can prove that is who he is, he can be a 20-point a night scorer. He can do what we've just talked about, right? Drop the turnovers down, have the feel for the game to know when it's your time. You have to take over, right? To know when that's your moment. If he can do those things, and I fully expect that he can, then having your second star paid $40 million or less per season is a steal in today's NBA. An absolute steal. I know that it's a center and people don't usually want to pay centers that much money, but think of the cap space that it opens up for the rest of the roster if that's your true number 2. So there's actually an advantage here if Duren can prove that this is who he is and really just kind of be consistent in who he is, right, moving forwards. So to me, I'm excited, actually, as weird as that sounds, to pay Jalen Duren close to $40 million on a contract extension, because I think that opens up a lot of cash for the rest of the team. And if he can keep playing like he is, I get it's unconventional, but it's working. Shoot, just keep running with it.
So the range for me, I was trying to look up some comps real quick because that's just always where I go in contract conversations. The range for me for Jalen Duren is somewhere between Naz Reid and Alperen Şengün. So Naz Reid,
yes, those are the exact names I was going to bring up. Yeah,
Reid's most recent contract with the Wolves is $25 million a year for 5 years. Şengün was 5 for 185, so annually that's $37 million. I think somewhere in that range, because I don't think Duren is close to Şengün, but he can certainly be an all-star. So I think it'll be closer to Şengün than it is to Reid. But I don't want to pay him more than like Alperen Şengün is getting. And that sure, you can adjust those numbers a bit with like the cap going up or whatever, but YouTube user mentioned his cap is 30. I think that would be a steal for the Pistons. I think the most likely outcome is somewhere a little bit above that, like in the 30 to 35 range. Like Bam's contract right now is 32 and a half per season. He's on an extension and is going to get paid much more than that when that extension kicks in. But maybe the contract that Bam's on right now is the number for Duren, which is 5 for 163, 32.5 million a year. I think that would be a good deal for both sides personally.
Oh yeah, no, I think once you start getting over like 32, 33, it's pretty solid, right? I know his camp's going to push higher. His camp's going to push for max. He's not going to get that. But yeah, I think if, it's the Sengun deal, but you push it up with some cap inflation. It's the Bam deal, but you push it up with some cap inflation. I think realistically, 35 plus is what Derek Brown brings up. That's a good expectation. That's kind of where I would guess that this ends up. It might be right on the dot at 35. I don't know how much higher he's really able to get, but I really do. I do think that it could work. We've got proof of concept. I want to see the playoffs, right? Because again, you want to keep having this new information, right? You want to see, okay, well, he's being a good second option here in the regular season. He's still got some things to learn and improve on, but they're all reachable, which is, nuts to say for a 22-year-old who's 6'10", 270, right? The things that he can do offensively are awesome. So keep running with that. Let's see if you can do it in the playoffs, right? They win a playoff series or two with Jalen Duren as the second option. Then look, I don't think you could really say what YouTube user says here with Duren not being able to be a second star on a championship team. If they make the Eastern Conference Finals this year with him as the second star, sure, yeah, he can, right? That's proof of concept right there. So I don't really think this is an Ayton situation. I think he's better and proven more, and he's younger and less of a mental issues. Not mental issues makes it sound like something else.
Hey,
motivation
right
issues. Motivation's the way to say it. There's not that element where maybe a little bit too big for his britches with DeAndre Ayton. I don't know if that's necessarily true here with Duren, but I'm happy with it. I love the Sengun deal. I think that would be a steal at this point. So that's where I'm at too.
Yeah. I mean, Duren, he just needs to keep it up, and I think both sides will happily agree to that deal. But yeah, we'll kick it off next week with Cade and the front office and JB and the team in general. So
great question from Epic Wayne. This is always fun on the Pistons Pulse. It's fun to do it here too.
Yeah. So shout out to you for leaving that, and happy new year to everyone. Thanks for joining us here. If you're listening to us on your podcast feed, reminder, you can call our voice line to ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.